careful you don't bias your doctor's diagnoses. Hey, I am Chuck the Bureaucrat, and today I'm going to share an experience my nephew had that may have some important implications for your medical care and for your VA disability rating. Just to set the stage, my nephew went to his doctor with unspecified abdominal pains. The doctor did a quick check and diagnosed him with gallstones. The doc basically gave him some Motrin and said it should go away in a day or two. A couple of days go by, the pain gets worse, so my nephew goes to the emergency room. And I want you to pay very close attention to what happens here. He says to the ER doctor, "Hey, my doctor says I have gallstones, but it's not getting better." This second doctor again diagnoses my nephew with gallstones, gives him some pain medication, and sends him home with the advice to just take it easy. A couple more days go by, and the pain is unbearable. So my nephew goes back to the emergency room, and this time he sees a third doctor. This time he is in so much pain that he doesn't say anything about what the other doctors have said about gallstones, and instead he just describes his symptoms. The third doctor goes, "Oh my God, you have a swollen appendix and you need emergency surgery." 24 hours later, his appendix is out and the pain is starting to go away. The lesson that my nephew learned was never give a doctor a diagnosis for your symptoms. He said, if you walk in and tell them that you have gallstones, they're going to check you for gallstones, and they're going to overlook a whole bunch of other conditions that your symptoms might be associated with. And look, maybe he's right, maybe he's wrong, but I think there are two distinct implications for your military treatment and for your VA disability rating. First, while you're still in uniform, it's probably pretty reasonable to expect that doctors will assume that any aches or pains or gripes that you have are really a result of your current military activities. Put another way, they might assume that whatever problem this is, it would just go away if you weren't in the military anymore. As a result, your doctors may diagnose you and document that diagnosis in a way that the VA would not recognize as an injury or illness that was incurred or aggravated on active duty. Second, when it comes to filing your VA claim, the burden of proof as far as whether or not you have a condition, it's a lot lower than a medical professional would have to meet before they started cutting on you. If you watched my video on nexus letters, you probably noticed that medical professionals are not required to state with certainty that the condition they observe was caused by military service. They just have to say that there is a probability that the injury or illness was the result of military service. And that brings me back to my nephew's observation about the pitfalls of biasing a medical professional's diagnoses. On one hand, you want to be very, very careful that you don't inadvertently bias a medical professional into thinking that your condition is more minor than it appears. But on the other hand, if your symptoms are associated with a presumptive condition, well, you don't want the medical provider to be overlooking the possibility that there's a service connection. You might actually want to ask your service provider whether or not the symptoms you're experiencing could be associated with a presumptive condition. Because the reality is, if the symptoms you're experiencing are associated with a presumptive condition, you want to make very certain that the condition gets into your medical records, not just the symptom. Anyways, in this video, I've talked a lot about presumptive conditions and nexus letters, and if you want to learn more about them, this video will talk to you about presumptive conditions, and this one will discuss nexus letters.